What's up, guys? Racing here, SMS Smithing. Today we have another welding review. Let's get into it. Alright guys, we got a new welder to review from our friends at Sefaspe. It is the MMA 200 SE, so it's their 200 amp stick welder. It's dual voltage, 110 and 220. Let's get into it. Alright, so in it we have our 200 amp welder. Right off the bat, a couple things I'm not going to like about it is it does have the smaller twist locked-in connector plugs, which I'd say if you're running closer to 200 amps, you want the bigger ones. It's just sturdier connection, more universal, less likely to burn out. Very light machine. The main plug on this is actually 110, so in order to use this to full capacity, you have to use an adapter picture that doesn't really plug in well until you're 220, which technically this here would have a safety hazard to it, because if I plug this in and I didn't have the welder plugged in, I could just plug any machine that's 110 into 220 and fry whatever equipment I'm going to be plugging into this. They sent us a pack of 6013, so you could theoretically weld right out of the box. We have our stinger, same as the other couple plastic cheap ones we've been using. It's pretty much from the same exact manufacturer, it looks like. Again, the small DINS connectors. Our cheap baby chipping hammer, ground clamp, our welding lens for our cheap little plasticky welding mask. That's it for the unboxing. We'll get into testing it. Alright, so we're going to test her out. We're going to run the 16th inch 6013s it comes with. We're going to run it at about 65 amps at first. See how that goes. The machine says its duty cycle is 60% at 60 amps, so let's give her a quick test run. So, it'll make a nice little bead, a little bit cold, a little bit humpy, but not bad. Again, we're not touching the limbs of the machine. We'll bump her up to about 75 amps, 80 amps. Should be too hot for this, but we'll see. Yep, that flattened her back out here. Nice beads. Runs pretty smooth. Just like their flux core version, it runs nice. Even though I'm not a huge fan of how small the DINS plugs are and the fact that you have to plug the 110 into the 220 in order to use it. But it works. So we'll try a 6010 next. 1/8 inch. Bumping it up to about 95. 90 should work. So again, like most of these inverter machines, 6010's a no-go. It just keeps smothering out. I'll move on to 7018. So around 7018, we're going to turn her up to about 115 to 130. And see how she runs there. And not a horrible bead profile. Pretty good. So we did some test welds with it. I've had it going around my shop at work for a little while, letting students use it, see what they thought. They all enjoyed it. I don't believe we talked about the price points of this machine. It is $100 without the shipping, but depending on days, you could probably find it on sale or websites for less. So, not bad. They did send me this machine. I'll show you some of the welds we did earlier. And then one of the welds that some of the students used with it. So, alright, so here's a 7018 weld and the 6013 to come with. Here are the 6010 we tried. It didn't work. It kept snuffing itself back out. And here is a 7018 vertical plate. We have students do that we used with the machine. You see here's our root up top. We have a fill pass. And we have a cap. All in all, I'd say for a $100 machine, it's pretty good. It runs really smooth, even out of position, which is impressive. It does have some drawbacks on it. Again, I don't like the fact that it's a 200 amp machine with their smaller DINS plug connectors, the leads are going to be more likely to burn out if you're running it on the higher end of that. And also, I don't like the way that the 110 plug has to go into the pigtail in order for it to work. I'd prefer it to be 220 and then you have to plug it into a different thing. But, you know, it's okay. It works. It's just there's a little bit more of a safety hazard there, potentially, if you're not paying attention. It is 100% duty cycle on 110, and it is 60% on 220 if you're running at 150 amps. So that means if you're running a basic 1/8 inch 7018 rod, you could basically go almost indefinitely with it without the machine tripping over on its duty cycle. Now, longevity-wise, it doesn't seem to have any issues right out the gate. Over time, it might wear down and start performing a little less, but right now it's doing pretty well. I said we've been letting the students run it, and it's going pretty good. Believe me, they're not gentle on things, so it's running good, and it's been bead after bead. Duty cycle's been holding up, which is good. So I think you get what's as advertised. If you don't need to run 6010, and you can get away with doing pretty much everything with 6013, 7018 anyways, should be fine. Alright guys, link for this is going to be down below. I hope you guys enjoy this. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, and as always, what's your fate?